नमः पार्वती पतये हर 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 महादेव। नमोऽस्त्वनन्ताय सहस्रमूर्तये सहस्रपादा शिशिरोरुबाहवे सहस्रनाम्ने पुरुषाय शाश्वते सहस्रकोटि युगधारिणे नमः। ॐ नमः शिवाय गुरवे सच्चिदानन्दमूर्तये निष्प्रपञ्चाय शान्ताय निरालम्बाय तेजसे नित्यानन्दाय गुरवे शिष्यसंसारहारिणे भक्तकार्येकदेहाय नमस्ते चित्सदात्मने। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ नमो गुरुभ्यो गुरुपादुकाभ्यो नमः परेभ्यः परपादुकाभ्यः आचार्यसिद्धे स्वरपादुकाभ्यो नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्यः। अहिंकाररहस्ययुक्ता श्रींकारगूढार्थमहाविभूत्या ओंकारमर्म प्रतिपादिनीभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्यां। होत्राग्निहोत्राग्निहविर्होत्रे होमादिसर्वा कृतिभासमानं यद्ब्रह्म तद्बोधवितारिणीभ्यः नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्यां। कामादिसर्प व्रजगारुणाभ्यां विवेकवैराग्यनिधे प्रदाभ्यां बोधप्रदाभ्यां द्रुतमोक्षदाभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। अनन्तसंसारसमुद्रतारा नौकायिताभ्यां स्थिरभक्तिदाभ्यां जाड्याब्दिसंशोषणवाडवाभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ अस्य श्री गुरु गीता स्तोत्रमन्त्रस्य भगवान् सदाशिवर्षि नानाविधानि छन्दांसि श्री गुरु परमात्मा देवता हम बीजं सह शक्तिः क्रोकीलकम् श्रीगुरो प्रसाद सिद्ध्यर्थे जपे विनियोगः। अथ ध्यानम्। हंसाभ्यां परिवृत्तपत्रकमले दिव्यै जगत्कारणैर्विश्वोत्कीर्णमनेकदेहनिलये स्वच्छन्दमात्मेच्छया तद्योदं पदसम्भवं तु चरणं दीपाङ्कुरग्राहिणं प्रत्यक्षाक्षरविग्रहं गुरुपदं ध्यायेद्विभुं शाश्वतम्। सूत उवाच कैलासशिखरे रम्ये भक्तिसन्धाननायकं प्रणम्य पार्वती भक्त्या शङ्करं परिपृच्छति। श्रीदेव्योवाच ॐ नमो देवदेवेश परात्पर जगद्गुरो सदाशिव महादेव गुरुदीक्षां प्रदेहि मे। केन मार्गेण भो स्वामिन् देहि ब्रह्ममयो भवेत् त्वं कृपां कुरु मे स्वामिन् नमामि चरणौ तव। ईश्वर उवाच मम रूपासि देवी त्वं त्वत्प्रीत्यर्थं वदाम्यहं लोकोपकारकः प्रश्नो न केनापि कृतः पुरा। दुर्लभं त्रिषु लोकेषु तच्छृणुष्व वदाम्यहं गुरुं विना ब्रह्मणान्यः सत्यं सत्यं वरानने। वेदशास्त्रपुराणानि इतिहासादिकानि च मन्त्रयन्त्रादिविद्याश्च स्मृतिरुच्चाटनादिकम्। शैवशाक्तागमादीनि अन्यानि विविधानि च अपभ्रंशकराणि जीवानां भ्रान्तचेतसाम्। यज्ञं व्रतं तपोदानं जपं तीर्थं तथैव च गुरुतत्त्वमविज्ञाय मूढस्ते चरति जनः। गुरुर्बुद्ध्यात्मनो नान्यत् सत्यं सत्यं न संशयः तल्लाभर्तं प्रयत्नस्तु कर्तव्यो हि मनीषिभिः। गूढविद्या जगन्माया देहे चाज्ञानसम्भवा उदयो यत्प्रकाशेन गुरुशब्देन कथ्यते। सर्वपापविशुद्धात्मा श्रीगुरोपादसेवनात् देहि ब्रह्मा भवेद्यस्मात् त्वत्कृपार्थं वदामि ते। गुरोपादाम्बुजं स्मृत्वा जलं शिरसि धारये सर्वतीर्थावगाहस्य सम्प्राप्नोति फलं नरः। शोषणं पापकं कस्य दीपनं ज्ञानतेजसा गुरोपादोदकं सम्यक् संसारार्णवतारकम्। अज्ञानमूलहरणं जन्मकर्मनिवारणं ज्ञानवैराग्यसिद्ध्यर्थं गुरोपादोदकं पिबेत्। गुरोपादोदकं पीत्वा गुरोरुच्छिष्टभोजनं गुरुमूर्ते सदा ध्यानं गुरुमन्त्रं जपेत् काशीक्षेत्रं तन्निवासो अन्नदीचरणोदकम् गुरुर्विश्वेश्वरः साक्षात् तारकं ब्रह्म निश्चितम् गुरुपादोदकं यत्तु गयासु सोक्षयो भटः तीर्थराजः प्रयागस्य गुरुमूर्त्यै नमो नमः स्मरे नित्यं गुरुनाम सदा जपेत् गुरुराज्ञां प्रकुर्वीत गुरुरन्यं गुरुभक्त्रस्थितं वित् प्राप्यते तत्प्रसादतः गुरुर्ध्यानं सदा कुर्यात् कुलस्त्रीस्वपतिर्यथा स्वाश्रमं च स्वजातिं च स्वकीर्तिपुष्टिवर्धनम् एतत् सर्वं परित्यज्य गुरोरन्यं न भावयेत् अनन्याः चिन्तयन्तो मां सुलभं परमं पदं तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन गुरोराराधनं कुरु त्रैलोक्ये स्फुटभक्तारो देवाद्यसुरपन्नगा गुरुभक्त्रस्थिता विद्या गुरुभक्त्या सुलभ्यते गुकारस्त्वन्धकारश्च ऋकारस्तेज उच्यते अज्ञानग्रासकं ब्रह्म गुरुरेव न संशयः गोकारः प्रथमो वर्णो मायादिगुणभासकः ऋकारो द्वितीयो ब्रह्म मायाभ्रान्तिविनाशनम् एवं गुरुपदं श्रेष्ठं देवानामपि दुर्लभम् ध्रुवं तेषां च सर्वेषां नास्ति तत्त्वं गुरो परम् आसनं शयनं वस्त्रं भूषणं वाहनादिकं साधकेन प्रदातव्यं गुरुसन्तोषकारकम् गुरोराराधनं कार्यं स्वजीवित्वं निवेदयेत् कर्मणा मनसा वाचा नित्यमाराधयेत् गुरुं दीर्घदण्डं नमस्कृत्य निर्लज्जो गुरुसन्निधौ शरीरम् इन्द्रियं प्राणान् सद्गुरुभ्यो निवेदयेत् आत्मदारादिकं सर्वं सद्गुरुभ्यो कीटाभस्मवेष्टा दुर्गन्धिमलमूत्रकं श्लेष्मरक्तं त्वचं मांसं वञ्चयेन्नाभराणि संसारवृक्षमारूढा पतन्तो नरकार्णवे येन चैवोद्धृता सर्वे तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः प्रभवे सर्वविद्यानां शम्भवे गुरवे नमः अज्ञानातिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे त्वं पिता त्वं च मे माता त्वं बन्धुस्त्वं च देवता संसारप्रतिबोधार्थं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। यत्सत्येन जगत्सत्यं यत्प्रकाशेन भाति तत् यदानन्देन नन्दन्ति तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। यस्य स्थित्या सत्यमिदं यद्भाति भानुरूपतः प्रियं पुत्रादि यत्प्रीत्या तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। येन चेतायते इदं चित्तं चेतायते नयम् यस्य ज्ञानादिदं विश्वं न दृश्यं भिन्नभेदतः सदेकरूपरूपाय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। यस्यामतं तस्य मतं मतं यस्यानवेदसा अनन्यभावभावाय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। यस्य कारणरूपस्य कार्यरूपेण भाति यत् कार्यकारणरूपाय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नानारूपमिदं सर्वं न केनाप्यस्ति भिन्नता श्रीगुरवे नमः। द्वन्द्वतापनिवारकं कारकं सर्वदा पद्भ्यः श्रीगुरुं प्रणमाम्यहम्। शिवे क्रुद्धे गुरुस्त्राता गुरुक्रुद्धे शिवो नहि तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन श्रीगुरुं शरणं व्रजे। वन्दे गुरुपदद्वन्द्वं वाङ्मनश्चित्तगोचरं श्वेतरक्तप्रभाविन्नं शिवशक्त्यात्मकम्। ऋकारं रूपवर्जितं गुणातीतस्वरूपं च यो दद्यात् स गुरुस्मृता। आत्रिनेत्र सर्वसाक्षी अचतुर्बाहुरच्युतः अचतुर्वदनो ब्रह्मा श्रीगुरो कपिलप्रिये। अयं मयाञ्जलिर्बद्धो दयासागरवृद्धये यदनुग्रहतो जन्तुश्चित्रसंसारमुक्तिभाक्। श्रीगुरो परमं रूपं विवेकचक्षुषोमृतं मन्दभाग्या न पश्यन्ति अन्धा सूर्योदयम्। सचरणद्वन्द्वं यस्यां दिशि विराजते तस्यै दिशि नमस्कुर्यात् भक्ता प्रतिदिनं प्रिये। तस्यै दिशि सततमञ्जलिरेषार्ये प्रक्षिप्यते मुखरितो मधुपै। जागर्ति यत्र भगवान् गुरुचक्रवर्ती विश्वोदयप्रलयनाथगणित्यसाक्षी। श्रीनाथादिगुरुत्रयं गणपतिं पीठत्रयं भैरवं सिद्धौगं वटुकत्रयं दूतीक्रमं मण्डलम्। वीरान्ध्वष्टचतुष्षष्टिनवकं वीरावली पञ्चकम् श्रीमन्मालिनि मन्त्रराजसहितं वन्दे गुरुर्मङ्गलम् अव्यस्तैः सकलैः सुदीर्घमनिलैः व्याधिप्रदय दुष्करैः प्राणायामशतैरनेककरणैः दुःखात्मकैर्दोषैः तस्याभ्युदिते विनश्यति बली वायुः स्वयं तत्क्षणात् प्राप्तुं तत्सहजं स्वभावमनिशं सेवध्वमेकं गुरुम् स्वदेशिकस्यैव शरीरचिन्तनं भवेदनन्तस्य शिवस्य चिन्तनं स्वदेशिकस्यैव च नामकीर्तनं भवेदनन्तस्य शिवस्य कीर्तनम् यत्पादरेणुकणिका कापि संसारवारिधे सेतुबन्धायते देशिकं तं उपास्महे यस्मादनुग्रहं लब्ध्वा महदज्ञानमुत्सृजे तस्मै श्रीदेशिकेन्द्राय नमश्चाभीष्टसिद्धये पादाब्जं सर्वसंसार आवानलविनाशकं ब्रह्मरन्ध्रेषिताम्बोज मध्यसंयममण्डले अकथादित्रिरेखाब्जे सहस्रदलमण्डले हंसपार्श्वत्रिकोणे हरे तन्मध्यगं सकला भुवना सृष्टिः कल्पिता शेषपुष्टिः निखिला निगमा दृष्टिः सम्पदां व्यर्थदृष्टिः अवगुणा परिमाष्टिः तत्पदार्थैकदृष्टिः भवगुणा परमेष्टिः मोक्षमार्गैकदृष्टिः सकला भुवनारङ्गा स्थापनस्तम्भयश्री सकरुणारसवृष्टि तत्त्वमाला समष्टि समय सृष्टि सच्चिदानन्ददृष्टि निवासतो मयि नित्यं श्रीगुरुर्दिव्यदृष्टिः अग्निशुद्धं समन्तातु ज्वालापरीचकादिया मन्त्रराजामिमं मन्ये हर्निशं पातुमृत्युतः तदेजति तन्नैजति तद्दूरे तत्समीपगे अजोऽहमजरोऽहं च अनादिनिधनैकयम् स्थितानन्दम् गणीयान्महतो महान् अपूर्वाणां परं नित्यं स्वयं ज्योतिर्निरामयम् विरजं परमाकाशं ध्रुवमानन्दमव्ययम् श्रुतिप्रत्यक्षमैतेयम् अनुमानश्चतुष्टयम् यस्य शास्त्रतपो वेद देशिकं च सदा स्मरेत् मननं यद्भवं कार्यं तद्वदामि महामते साधुत्वं च मया दृष्टं त्वयि तिष्ठति अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन भुक्तिमुक्तिप्रदाताय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अनेकाजन्मसम्प्राप्त सर्वकर्माविदाहिने स्वात्मज्ञानप्रभावेण तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। न गुरोरधिकं तत्त्वं न गुरोरधिकं तत्त्वं ज्ञानात् परं नास्ति तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मन्नाथा श्रीजगन्नाथो मद्गुरु श्रीजगद्गुरो ममात्मा सर्वभूतात्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ध्यानमूलं गुरुर्मूर्तिः पूजामूलं गुरुपदं मन्त्रमूलं गुरुर्वाक्यं मोक्षमूलं गुरुकृपा। गुरुराजेनादिष्ट गुरुपरमदैवतं गुरुपरातरं नास्ति तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सप्तसागरपर्यन्तं तीर्थस्नानादिकं फलं गुरुरङ्घ्रिपयोबिन्दु सहस्रांशे गुरुम्। हरौरुष्टे गुरुस्राता गुरोरुष्टेन कश्चन तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन श्रीगुरुं शरणं भजे। गुरुरेव जगत्सर्वं ब्रह्म विष्णु शिवात्मकं गुरुपरापरं नास्ति तस्मात् तं पूजयेत् गुरुम्। ज्ञानविज्ञानसहितं लभ्यते गुरुभक्तिता गुरुपरापरं नास्ति ध्येयोऽसौ गुरुमार्गिभिः। नेति नेतीति वै श्रुति मनसा वचसा चैव नित्यमाराधये गुरुम्। हरप्रसादेन ब्रह्म विष्णु सदाशिवा समर्था प्रभवादौ च केवलं गुरुसेवया। देवकिन्नरगन्धर्वा पितरो यक्षचारणा मुनयोऽपि न जानन्ति गुरुशुश्रूषणे। महाहंकारगर्वेण तपो विद्याबलान्विता संसारकुहरा वर्ते घटयन्त्रे यथा घटा। न मुक्ता देवगन्धर्वा पितरो यक्ष ऋषया सर्वसिद्धाश्च गुरुसेवा परामुखा। ध्यान सर्वानन्दप्रदायकं सर्वसौख्यपरं नित्यं भुक्तिमुक्तिविधायकम्। श्रीमत्परब्रह्म गुरुं स्मरामि श्रीमत्परब्रह्म गुरुं वदामि श्रीमत्परब्रह्म गुरुं नमामि श्रीमत्परब्रह्म गुरुं भजामि। ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानबोधं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम्। एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनं इत्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्मा नमाम्यहम्। हृदम्बुजे कर्णिकमध्य संस्थे सिंहासने संस्थितः ध्याये गुरुं चन्द्रकलाप्रकाशं चित्पुस्तकाभीष्टवरं दधानं। श्वेताम्बरं श्वेतविलेपपुष्पं मुक्ताभिभूषं मुदितं द्विनेत्रं वामाङ्गपीठस्थितदेवं मन्दस्मितं सान्द्रकृपानिधानम्। आनन्दमानन्दकरं प्रसन्नं ज्ञानस्वरूपं निजबोधयुक्तं योगीन्द्रमीड्यं वरोगवैद्यं श्रीमद्गुरुं नित्यमहं नमामि। यस्मिन् सृष्टिस्थितिध्वंसः निग्रहात्मकं नित्यं पञ्चविधं शाश्वतं भासते तं नमाम्यहम्। प्रातः श्रीरसि शुक्लाब्जे द्विनेत्रं द्विभुजं गुरुं कालभयायुतं शान्तं स्मर्येतं नामपूर्वकम्। न गुरोरधिकं न गुरोरधिकं न गुरोरधिकं न गुरोरधिकं शिवशासनता 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 शिवशासनता। इदमेव शिवं त्विदमेव शिवं त्विदमेव शिवं त्विदमेव शिवं मम शासनतो मम शासनतो मम शासनतो मम शासनतः। एवं ज्ञानमुत्पद्यते स्वयं तत्सद्गुरुप्रसादेन मुक्तोऽस्मीति भावये। गुरोदर्शितमार्गेण मनः ज्ञेयं सर्वस्वरूपं च ज्ञानं च मन उच्यते। ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं समं कुर्यात् नान्यपन्था द्वितीयः। एवं श्रुत्वा महादेवी गुरुनिन्दां करोति यः स याति नरकं घोरं गुरुलोको न वक्तव्यः स्वच्छन्दो यदि वा भवेत्। ओङ्कारेण न वक्तव्यं प्राज्ञै शिष्यै गुरोरग्रे न वक्तव्यम् असत्यं कदाचन। गुरुं कृत्य गुरुं निर्जित्य वादतः अरण्ये निर्जले देशे स भवेत् ब्रह्मराक्षसः। मुनिभिपन्नगैर्वापि सुरैर्वा शापितो यदि कालमृत्यो भयाद्वापि गुरुरक्षति पार्वती। असक्ता हि सुराद्यश्च असक्ता मुनयस्तथा गुरुशापेन ते शीघ्रं क्षयं यान्ति न संशयः। मन्त्रराजमिमं गुरुरित्यक्षरद्वयं स्मृतिदार्थवाक्येन गुरु साक्षात् परं पदम्। श्रुति स्मृति अविज्ञाय केवलं गुरुसेवका ते वै सन्न्यासिना प्रोक्ता इत नित्यं ब्रह्म निराकारं निर्गुणं बोधयेत् निराभासं दीपो दीपान्तरं यथा गुरुकृपा प्रसादेन आत्मरामं निरीक्षये अनेन गुरुमार्गेण आत्मज्ञानं वर्तते आब्रह्मस्तम्भपर्यन्तं परमात्मस्वरूपकं स्थावरं जङ्गमं चैव वन्देऽहं सच्चिदानन्दं भेदातीतं सदागुरुं नित्यं पूर्णं निराकारं निर्गुणं साक्षात्कारं परात्परतरं देयं नित्यमानन्दकारकं गुणाकाशमध्यस्थं शुद्धस्फटिकसंयुगं स्फटिकाप्रतिमारूपं दृश्यते दर्पणे यथा तथात्मनिचिदाकारम् आनन्दं सोऽहमित्युत अङ्गुष्ठमात्रपुरुषं ध्यायतश्चिन्मयं हृदि तत्र स्फुरति भावोऽयं तदोत्तरं तथा गम्यं नामरूपविवर्जितं निःशब्दं तद्विजानीय स्वभावं ब्रह्म पार्वती यथा गन्धस्वभावेन कर्पूरकुसुमादिषु शीतोष्णादिस्वभावेन तथा ब्रह्म च शाश्वतम् स्वयं तथा विदो भूत्वा स्थातव्यं यत्र कुत्रचित् कीटभ्रमरवतत्र गुरुध्यानं तथा कृत्वा स्वयं ब्रह्ममयो भवेत् पिण्डे पदे तथा रूपे मुक्तौ सौनासंशया श्रीपार्वती उवाच पिण्डं किं नो महादेव रूपातीतं च रूपं किम् एतद्याख्याहि शङ्करम् श्रीमहादेव उवाच पिण्डं कुण्डलिनी शक्तिः पदं हंसामुदारितं रूपं बिन्दुरिति ज्ञेयं रूपातीतं निरञ्जनम् पिण्डे मुक्ता पदे मुक्ता रूपे मुक्ता वरानने रूपातीते तु ये मुक्ता ते मुक्ता नात्र संशया स्वयं सर्वमयो भूत्वा परं तत्त्वं विलोकयेत् परात् परात्परं नान्यं सर्वमेतन्निरालयम् तस्यावलोकनं प्राप्य सर्वसङ्गविवर्जितम् एकाकिन स्पृहा शान्तस्तिष्ठासेत् तत्प्रसादतः लब्धं वा धनलब्धं वा स्वल्पं वा बहुलं तथा निष्कामेनैव भोक्तव्यं सदा सन्तुष्टचेतसा सर्वज्ञपथमित्याहुर्देहि सर्वमयो बुधा सदानन्दः सदा शान्तो रमते यत्र कुत्रचित् यत्रैव तिष्ठते सोऽपि सदेशः पुण्य यन्तो भक्तिभावेन पठते शृणुते यदि विहित्वा तत्प्रदातव्यं सर्वं सफलं भवेत्। गुरुगीतात्मकं देवी शुद्धतत्त्वं भवव्याधिविनाशार्थं स्वयमेव जपेत् सदा। गुरुगीताक्षरैकं तु मन्त्रराजमिमं जपेत् अन्ये च विविधा मन्त्रा फलानि षोडशे। अनन्तफलमाप्नोति गुरुगीता जपेन तु सर्वदारिद्र्यनाशनम् कालमृत्युभयहरं सर्वसङ्कटनाशनम् यक्षराक्षसभूतानां चोरव्याघ्रभयापहम् महाव्याधिहरं सर्वं विभूतिसिद्धिदं भवेत् अथवा मोहनं वश्यं स्वयमेव जपेत् सदा। वस्त्रासने च दारिद्र्यं पाषाणे रोगसम्भवा मेदिन्यां दुःखमाप्नोति कायेनातिनिष्फलम्। कृष्णार्जुने ज्ञानसिद्धिर्व्याघ्रचर्मणि कुशासने ज्ञानसिद्धिः सर्वसिद्धिस्थितं बले। कुशैर्वा दुर्भया देवी आसने शुभ्रकम्बले उपविश्य ततो देवी जपेदेकाग्रमानसा। हेयं शुक्लं च शान्त्यर्थं वश्ये रक्तासनं प्रिये अभिचारे कृष्णवर्णं पीतवर्णं धरामहे। उत्तरे शान्तिकामस्तु वश्ये पूर्वमुखो जपेत् दक्षिणे मारणं प्रोक्तं पश्चिमे च निरामम्। मोहनं सर्वभूतानां बन्धमोक्षकरं जपेत् देवराजा प्रियकरं सर्वलोकं वशं भवेत्। सर्वेषां सम्मनकरं गुणानां च विवर्जितं दुष्कर्मनाशनं चैव सुकर्मसिद्धिदं भवेत्। असिद्धं नवग्रहभयापहं दुःस्वप्ननाशनं चैव सुस्वप्नफलदायकम्। सर्वशक्तिधरं नित्यं यथा वन्द्यासपुत्रगम् अवैधव्यकरं स्त्रीणां सौभाग्यदायकं सदा। आयुरारोग्यमैश्वर्यं पुत्रपौत्रप्रवर्धनम् अकामतः श्रीविदप्तं भगवान्मोक्षमाप्नुयात्। अवैधव्यं सकामातु लभते चान्यजन्मनि सर्वदुःखभयहरं धर्मार्थकाममोक्षदं यं यं चिन्तयति तं तं प्राप्नोति निश्चितम्। तस्य कामधेनु कल्पना कल्पपादपा चिन्तामणिश्चिन्तितस्य सर्वमङ्गलकारकम्। मोक्षहेतुर्जपे नित्यं मोक्षश्रियमवाप्नुयात्। योगकामोच्यते यो वै तत्र दिवानिशम् एवं महामुक्तः सर्वदा वर्तते बुधा तस्य सर्वप्रयत्नेन भावभक्तिं करोति यः सर्वबन्धेहरहितो मुक्तो भवति पार्वती भुक्तिमुक्ते भयं तस्य जिह्वाग्रे च सरस्वती प्राणिनः सर्वे गुरुगीता जपेन तु सर्वसिद्धिं प्राप्नुवन्ति भुक्तिमुक्तिं न संशयः सत्यं सत्यं पुनः सत्यं धर्म्यं सांख्यं मयोदितं गुरुगीता समं नास्ति सत्यं सत्यं वरानने एको देव एकधर्म एकनिष्ठा परं तपः गुरुपरातरं नान्यं नास्ति तत्त्वं गुरुपरम् माता धन्या पिता धन्यो धन्यो वंशाकुलं तथा धन्या च वसुधा देवी गुरुभक्तिर्दुर्लभा शरीरम् इन्द्रियं प्राणश्चार्थः स्वजनबान्धवा माता पिता कुलं देवी गुरुरेव न संशयः आकल्पजन्मना जपव्रततपक्रिया तत्सर्वं सफलं देवी गुरुसन्तोषमात्रतः विद्या ततो बलेनैव पुण्यभाग्यश्च ये नराः गुरुसेवा न कुर्वन्ति सत्यं सत्यं वरानने विष्णु महेशाश्च देवर्षि पितृकिन्नरा सिद्धचारणयक्षाश्च अन्येऽपि मुनयो गुरुभाव परं तीर्थम् अन्यतीर्थं निरर्थकम् सर्वतीर्थाश्रयो देवी पादाङ्गुष्ठं शवर्तते जपेन जयमाप्नोति चानन्तफलमाप्नुयात् येन कर्म त्यजं सर्वं स्थानानि च धर्माणि च जपं हीनासनं कुर्वन् हीनकर्मफलप्रदम् प्रयाणेव सङ्ग्रामे रिपुसङ्कटे जपं जयमवाप्नोति मरणे मुक्तिदायकम् सर्वकर्म च सर्वत्र गुरुपुत्रस्य सिद्ध्यति एवं रहस्यमनोवाचं तवाग्रेकथितं मया सुगोप्य च प्रवर्तेन मम त्वत्प्रियातिथि स्वामिमुख्य गणेशादि विष्णुवादीनां च पार्वती मनसा तेन वक्तव्यं सत्यं सत्यं वदामः अतीव पक्वचित्ताय श्रद्धा भक्तियुताय च अभक्ते वञ्चके धूर्ते पाखण्डे नास्तिके नरे मनसापि न वक्तव्या गुरुगीता संसारसागरसमुद्रे ब्रह्मादिदेवमुनिपूजितसिद्धमन्त्रम् दारिद्र्यदुःखभवरोगविनाशमन्त्रम् वन्दे महाभयहरं निर्ममं निरहङ्कारं समदुःखसुखं धीरम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् अविनाशिनमात्मानम् एकं विज्ञाय तत्त्वतः वीतरागभयक्रोधं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् नाहं देहो न मे देहो जीवो नाहमहं विचित् एवं विज्ञाय सन्तुष्टम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् समस्तं कल्पनामात्रम् आत्मानुभूता सनातनम् इति विज्ञाय सन्तृप्तं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणं कामसङ्कल्पवर्जितं हेयोपादेयहीनं तं अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् स्वभावेनैव यो योगी सुखं भोगं न वाञ्छति यदृच्छालाभसन्तुष्टं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् नैव निन्दा प्रशंसाभ्यां यस्य विक्रियते मनः आत्मक्रीडं महात्मानम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् नित्यं जाग्रदवस्थायां स्वप्नवद्योगतिष्ठति निश्चिन्तं चिन्मयात्मानं द्वेष्यं नास्ति प्रियं नास्ति नास्ति यस्य शुभाशुभम् वेदज्ञानविहीनं तम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् जडं पश्यति नो यस्तु जगत् पश्यति चिन्मयम् नित्ययुक्तं गुणातीतं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् यो हि दर्शनमात्रेण पवते भुवनत्रयम् पावनं जङ्गमं तीर्थम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् सर्वपूज्यं सदा पूर्णम् अखण्डानन्दविग्रहम् स्वप्रकाशं चिदानन्दं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् निष्कलं निष्क्रियं शान्तं निर्मलं परमामृतं गणेशपुरीवासिनम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् योगपूर्णं प्रेमपूर्णं सुदर्शनं ज्ञानपूर्णं कृपामूर्तिं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् दुर्जनः सज्जनो भूयात् सज्जनः शान्तिमाप्नुयात् शान्तो मुच्येत बन्देभ्यो मुक्ताशान्यान् विमोचयेत् स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्याय्येन मार्गेण महीषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी स्वच्छशालिनी देशोऽयं शोभरहितो ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् सर्वस्तरतु दुर्गाणि
Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Satsang on Sunday morning. Nityanandaya Gurave Shisha Samsara Harine Bhakta Kaye Kadeaya Namaste Chit Saradmane Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Sachidanandamurtaye Nishpapanchaya Shantaya Nilalambaya Tejase Om Sana Vavatu Sanao Bhunaktu Saviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahe Om Shanti 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 Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Good morning again, and good morning to everyone that is watching virtually through that camera. So it's good to be back. Jackie and I have traveled quite a bit in the last while, and I've traveled even more in the last while. So it's wonderful to be back here in Walden, and especially to have experienced some of the Navaratra, which was really, really beautiful, really impressive. And one of the most impressive things was the fact that so many people came physically here. Pretty much all of you guys came and participated. And it just, to me, it was very impressive because it shows the depth of the satsang that we have. Because the Navaratra, as Devyani pointed out, has been happening here for 30 years, here and in India. And it's created a love for the Devi, and we get the visitation in her form twice a year. And in so doing, we get the darshan of the Devi, and the land is blessed, and we are blessed. And as we know, the Shaktipat tradition is what enables us to move forward in our sadhana. It's the heart of everything. So it's Baba's grace. And these sutras, these scriptures are also a form of grace, a form of darshan. So the spring is here, we see. I went for a walk yesterday, and in the spring we can really see the spanda, see the spanda principle waking up, and the amazing quality or the ability that the earth has to just spring back after a cold winter, and the snow and the ice and the frozen ground, and suddenly it's a relentlessly here. The birds are very busy, the trees are budding, everything's happening out there, and you turn around, it'll be summer soon. Yesterday I went for a walk in the woods, and just to really enjoy those first few days where you can just see the little crocuses and the little cabbages and the ferns and the birds being very active and busy. I looked for the eagles, but I didn't see them. I didn't take my binoculars, but as I was walking through the woods, I saw often when we walk through the woods, I see big brown birds, singular at a time, usually, and they're disturbed by us walking, and they switch trees. They'll move to another tree, and there's sort of a lot of flutter because they're very big. It's almost like they're crashing against the trees. But I saw this bird, and I'd always thought it was a brown hawk of some kind, and I wondered what kind of hawk it was. And this time, I was very quiet by myself, and the bird moved to another tree, and I saw the bird was, usually I don't see the bird on a branch, and I look for it sometimes and can't find the bird after it's flown. Anyway, it was holding onto the tree like a woodpecker would hold onto the tree, and could see just around the corner, it was watching me, and I saw it had the little ears, so it was a big owl. And in that moment, I was reminded of Spandakarikas, where you should try to, in every moment, find the Spanda principle. So I was already being very quiet and still, and watching the owl. The owl was kind of, I assume, was watching me. And in that stillness, it's just the peace of the moment, and the glory of like a darshan like that was very, very stilling. And so the idea of stillness is what the Spandakarikas is all about. It can seem complicated when we look into these sutras, but it's really about those kind of moments, or any moment when we're really paying attention. So the kind of the theme of this talk, my intention here, is to look at awareness itself, and keep it very simple and direct for us. So what the sutras are really telling us, because they're saying some very, very profound things. We've studied a number of scriptures that Baba has talked from, that Gurudev speaks from. So you kind of want to know, where does this scripture fit in? How do we use this? Where does it fit in the pantheon of sutras, scriptures, philosophies. So it's part of Kashmir Shaivism, and it is a commentary on the Shiva Sutras by Vasugupta. And it is a commentary, and it sort of brings out the essence of the Shiva Sutras. So the idea of awareness is a very, very critical, important ingredient, the most important ingredient. So in introducing the idea of awareness, let's simply bring our awareness to the present moment and see if we can become aware of being itself. Because usually when we think of awareness, we think of being aware of something. The Spandakarikas is saying, become aware of awareness itself. Turn the attention within to being itself, to the knower, to that knower that's the same in all of us. Let the attention rest there, in that aham. It's at the space between the breaths. It's in a moment of jubilation, in a moment of peace. It's always there. It's unchanging. Even though the individual feels limited, that is not limited. Even though changes occur to the body, that does not change. So we're encouraged to bring the attention there, to hold it there, to let it rest there, let it relax there, and see what arises from there. Bliss will arise, understanding, knowledge, clarity. We're all able to go to this place because of grace. We're able to rest there, to go there at will. So we're encouraged at every opportunity to focus our attention there, so that awareness, that space of being, is also the source of becoming. It's the source of all objects that we perceive in our minds. It is the source of even the senses and the mind itself and everything that's perceived. Because the whole of our life occurs within this mind, within this body. So these phenomena are always arising within the context of the self, out of this pure aham. So we can think of the aham as Shiva. And that's the same in all of us, in all being. And everything that arises in the fivefold process we know from the Pratyabhijna Hridayam: creation, sustenance, concealment of true nature, dissolution, and grace. These functions continue to happen. That which arises in all these different forms is called spanda. Spanda arises out of Shiva. We are Shiva, and spanda is the vibration of Shiva, pure consciousness, bliss, knowledge. And it is taking the form of all that we experience, from the highest to the lowest tattvas. is happening within us. These two principles, Shiva or Shankara and the Spanda principle, are the whole basis of all of Baba's teachings, all the yogic teachings. So when Baba said, meditate on yourself, God dwells within you as you, he's talking about this aham. And when he said the world is a play of consciousness, he's talking about the spanda. And the world is full of bliss for one who continually returns to this space of being. So it's as simple as that. We keep returning to this space of being. We let becoming happen, and we recognize becoming as the spanda principle, taking all these different forms. There's a sutra in the Pratibhinirhridayam, a question that's asked, that in the limited state of consciousness, is there any sign by which we can recognize that individual as still being Shiva? Because in our regular consciousness, this sense of pure being gets colored and tainted and limited, and we feel like we're suffering, or that we're in pain, that there's happiness and sadness, and we're striving to find happiness. The teaching is that we go to this pure I consciousness. There is satisfaction there is peace, no matter what's happening. So the answer to the question, in this limited state, is there a sign by which Shiva can be recognized? Because we are Shiva, we've forgotten ourselves. The answer is, even in this limited state, the fivefold process continues to be performed. It continues to happen. So that fivefold process is happening within us all the time. And we can observe now, we're staying in that state of being, and we can observe, watch what arises. We can hear the sound of this voice by the instrument of the ears. We can hear the elevator, and we can see the elevator in the mind. We can hear this voice. We can imagine a person in the elevator. We can go anywhere we want. Someone's walking. We see the person walking. We try to guess who that might be. The door opens. All this is occurring in our own consciousness. This is all the spanda principle performing its magic. So it's a radical approach. I am Shiva. All this is Shakti. This doesn't preclude any form of devotion or special worship that we might have. This is just the basis of all worship. So in this first sutra, which says, Yasyon Mesha Nimesha Byam Jagata Parayodayo Tam Shakti Chakra Vibhava Prabhavam Shankaram Stumaha. The Sutrakara says, we praise that Shankara, which is that I, that we are dwelling in, whose nature is the collection or conglomeration of powers that evolve to cause the manifestation of the universe through their junction and disjunction. So those are just a lot of words saying that everything that's occurring within us is caused by the spanda, by the shaktis. And it's all happening and spontaneously arises, and we get pictures and we get experiences and we get happiness and sadness. So we're always encouraged to praise that Shankara, His expansion and contraction causes the universe to dissolve and arise. So all these universes are dissolving and arising within us constantly until we sleep at night. In deep sleep, the universes cease to arise. They've just dissolved. But even as is pointed out in the next sutra, one of the next sutras is that even the waking, dream, and deep sleep states arise and subside from that space, and they exist on that fourth state, the state of Turiya. So his expansion and contraction causes the universe to dissolve and arise. So we praise that Shankara. We praise that. So there's that sense of worship. So in our worship, in our own practice, we go there. And this is why it's understood that the universe is sacred. Because if we see the world in this way, that everything is sacred, everything is spanda, everything that's happening is a spanda, this divine principle, then everything is sacred. It changes the whole manner of experiencing the world. So our personal practice is of critical importance, and that it become continuous over a long period of time with devotion, because it will reinforce the truth within us that we are that pure spanda principle. We are Shiva, and everything is consciousness. There's a lot of evidence out there that tries to refute this understanding. So you can open your eyes now. If you want to, you don't have to. We can just stay in that space and see the talk arising. See this voice, this individual expressing a lot of love for these sutras. So we have the opportunity, the darshan of Vasugupta and the Svandakarikas in this moment, by the grace of our own guru, our own gurus. So all this is given to us in order to remove our ignorance. And ignorance is tenacious. We see in the Chandipat story, you remember the demons that were slain. It was too much and too little. What else was there? What other demons? Raktabija, which Raktabija is the blood, the drops of blood, and for each drop of blood, a new thought will arise. So we know Raktabija, we know that the mind is like, we can rest in this state of oneness, and I think it's good that if we all continue to do this, we see the drops of blood, we can kill one thought, but more thoughts will come up and continue to arise. And so that Baba said the best way to understand the mind is to see it as consciousness. So we see it as consciousness, then it's not bothering us. It's not going to hurt us. And in a way, it's like, how does the Devi finally do away with Raktabija, demon? She holds them all in her mouth, right? She holds them all. So if we can somehow just be compassionate to the mind and hold them, we don't have to try to destroy them. We accept them. Like it's understood, we're not repressing anything, but we're just becoming aware, and we're allowing the Devi to hold them in her mouth. And then with that, we're perhaps not thinking so much about too much and too little. So it's that state of mind that's never satisfied. It's like, oh, and it's always very interested, very outgoing, because the world is fun, and it's very distracting, and we get into the dramas of our lives, and the striving and the disappointment, and we start to identify, we start to lose that sense of oneness, that aham, and we forget it's just consciousness, it's a play. We forget the teaching, and suddenly we find ourselves in more of a difficult state where we're like the gods that are calling on the Devi. It's just like, help us, help us. So this is an all internal battle to go back to the light, to come back to oneness, to come back to our true nature, and to rest again in that aham space. So because in that space, there's this great jubilation at the end where everything is just like as it should be, as it really is. So it is a struggle. It's not easy, and we know that, like in traveling, like we arrived in New Zealand, and there had just been a cyclone, and there was a lot of loss of property and some loss of life, and a lot of difficulty everywhere, with the weather, with the wars, with the politics and everything. So it's easy for us to have a very pessimistic view about the world, and then to get very caught up in things. So, but as yogis, we're doing something, again, it's a very radical approach, isn't it? Very, very radical. You could say, what about the world? Well, as Baba says about this. Baba says a lot. He says, even in a state of worldliness, nothing veils the essential nature of the supreme reality. So it comes back to that question of, since we're in a somewhat limited state of consciousness most of the time, right? A good portion of the time, we're not. Tell me if you disagree. We're on a journey. We're striving. We're doing sadhana. So we're instructed according to these principles that are laid down here. It's like, these are the facts, okay? The facts are, everything is Shiva. Everything is arising out of Shiva as Shakti. Even in our own experience, even in our limited experience. These are facts. Because facts are established in the yogic tradition by agama, which is testimony. So we have testimony of the great sages, of the poet saints, of Baba, of Vasugupta, saying everything is pure consciousness. Everything arises out of pure consciousness, exists within it, and subsides within it. Another fact is, even in the waking dream and deep sleep state, those all exist within the self, within the fourth state, Turiya. That's another fact that's given. And we're meant to observe this for ourselves and strive to, at the beginning of sleep, at the end of sleep, to know the self, to become aware, to continually do that. And then also it's said that even this, aham dukhi, aham sukhi cha. Where is the sutra? Get the sutra. Aham sukhi cha dukhi cha raktasche dhyadi samvida sukha dhyavasanusyote vartante nyatra ta sputam. He says, it is evident that I am happy, I am sad. So he's established the states of consciousness, waking, dream, and deep sleep, exist within the fourth state. They're arising and subsiding. They're not affecting the self. It's not changing, even though those states arise. So the interpolation is, we're not changing either. It's all about the experience of the individual. enabling the individual to no longer to be individualized, to be limited by his individuality, to have that kind of freedom, that the freedom that comes with that firm conviction and experience. So the other fact is given here. It is evident, I am happy, I am sad, I am attached. So he's saying this right here, what we were just talking about. We can raise our hands and say, yes, I get happy, I get sad, I get attached, I get detached. He says, yet all such feelings exist in a different place, in which happiness and other states are strung together. Think about that. That's interesting. So our happiness, our sadness, our attachment and aversion, they're all strung together. So it's like he's referring to a mala, like these are experiences, like I'm happy, I'm sad. We can't deny that these things occur. And where do they occur? They occur within this body, within this mind. They're arising in society. But we get attached to it. So I'm attached, I'm happy, I'm sad. Where do I exist? They exist in a different place. So where would that place be? They exist within that space where everything is. Space of the self. The space of aham. And they are spanda, arising and subsiding. So they're all strung together there. But we are not that. We are not really. So it's that irony. It's the irony of the whole thing, the whole puzzle of the spiritual life. So there's kind of proof on both sides, right? The mind is saying, oh yeah, but things are really bad. You really feel lousy, it's like, and then, so there's a kind of a dichotomy there. There's different kinds of proof. So we had these facts are told to us, right? So there's agama, which is the statements of the gurus and the scriptures. We're told these things. And then there's pramana. Agama, anumana. Anumana is reflection, contemplation. Like, it's kind of one of the examples that's given is, I see smoke in the distance. What do you think? Maybe fire, right? So there's a reasoning process. So we can reason through these sutras as they're taught to us, as we're reading them. We want to use our own sense of discrimination and logic. And then finally, there's pratyaksha, direct experience. So we want to experience this directly. I'll tell you a Sheikh Nasruddin story, I don't want to distract you from your absorption in pure consciousness. So everybody wants to borrow Nasruddin's donkey, or his rope, or his pots and pans. People are, they're always borrowing things from Nasruddin. A neighbor called on Nasruddin. Mullah, I want to borrow your donkey. I'm sorry, said the mullah, but I've already lent it out. As soon as he had spoken, the donkey brayed from the back room. The guy hears the donkey. The sound came from the Nasruddin stable. But mullah, I can hear the donkey in there. And he shut the door in the man's, as he shut the door in the man's face, Mullah Nasruddin said with indignation, a man who believes the word of a donkey in preference to my word does not deserve to be lent anything. So what can this possibly mean? No, the Nasruddin stories are sort of like Zen koans, really. And if you try to reason them out and really, but they're meant to be thought about. I'm convinced of that. And sometimes when you're in the right mood, they're just so funny and so good. And other times you'll read them and it's like, I'm not getting these, it's not happening, you know. So I've thought about this story quite a bit. And I see it, it's like Nasruddin's like he's testimony. The person, the reputable person who's the lender of the donkey is saying, I've lent the donkey. The donkey's not here. And then there's the testimony of the donkey itself, in a way. The sound of the donkey's braying. And the man's convinced, okay, you're cheating me, you're lying to me. So who's right, who's wrong? What do we listen to? Well, I don't know. So there you go to that space of the spanda between two thoughts. Like you expect, oh, there should be an answer to this. So we have our own evidence in our own lives, in a way, right? We have evidence to really support the idea of the limitation of the individual. Strong evidence. It's like the donkey braying. Whoa, you can't deny it. The donkey's braying. I mean, you're really limited. You're going to die. You know, you were born, you're living, you're getting older. You see where I'm going with this. So there's very strong evidence. There's like circumstantial evidence, because that was circumstantial. We didn't know that was the donkey. He didn't see the donkey. And anyway, so there's very strong evidence to support that idea, the experience of limitation. So the sutras are here to tell us, no, the donkey's already been lent out. Stretching the analogy here. But the sutras are telling us, you are consciousness, you are that. So that it's saying, this is the testimony, and use your reasoning, and now direct experience. So sadhana is the most important thing in all of this. The actual direct experience. Now, we are fortunate to have the Shaktipat tradition where we've all experienced Shaktipat. And if we haven't, we should strive to experience it and deepen the experience, deepen the knowing. And we can go back now to that space if we've moved out of it, or if you want to. And some would say you're never moving out of it. But we can remember that aham, and that all this is arising from there. And so we are told to continually strive to be in that space. I like the poems of Rumi a lot because they're a little bit like the Zen koans and the Nasruddin stories, but in a very poetic and beautiful way. Rumi takes us to this space. He says, during prayer, I am accustomed to turn to God like this, and recall the meaning of Muhammad's words, the delight felt in a ritual prayer. So we can think of ritual prayer as that moment when we commune, when we feel aham, or when we feel love for the beloved, in our own puja, in our own moments of meditation and worship, where we become overwhelmed with the feeling of devotion and closeness, where God is a friend, where the self is, we're identified with the self. And we're in that space of spanda. He says, the window of my soul opens, and from the purity of the unseen world, the book of God comes to me straight. The book, the rain of divine grace, and the light are falling into my house through a window from a real and original source. So this is that real and original source, the aham, in which everything exists. The house within a house without a window is hell. You know, when we have a house, we want to be able to look out. You want to see the light come in. So we can imagine this experience of limitation is like a house without a window. Without contact with the beloved, we feel limited, we feel closed in, it feels dark. The house without a window is hell. To make a window is the essence of true religion. So then striving for the direct experience is the essence of true religion. He said, don't thrust your axe upon every thicket. Come, use your axe to cut open a window. So we've got a couple of minutes here. If anybody I thought you could see if there are any questions that anyone has.
Can you say something about how Baba talked about two ahams, the little one and the cosmic?
No. Anybody else? So how are you doing with the Spandakarikas? How many people are studying? Great. Niteshwari study. Mm-hmm.
Philosophy so that we can connect all these dots of the stories. Because I just had to refresh that.
Okay, yeah. We talked about the first sutra, which is virtually just bowing to the pure consciousness from which everything arises and subsides. And that brings us to the idea of worship. And it begins with that, and then we go out, and it always comes back to that. So it always comes back to going to that pure place and understanding that everything arises and subsides from that. And then Sutra 2 was where this entire creation rests, from where it has manifested, cannot be concealed by anything. I didn't talk about that this time, but it's saying that that pure consciousness from which everything arises and subsides cannot be concealed. It cannot be concealed. Even though it seems to be concealed. It's sort of talking about the invincibility, the incorruptibility of that pure principle. So this aham within us cannot be concealed. And it exists in all our states of consciousness, in happiness and sadness.
And that's our direct experience. And that equals our direct experience.
And that we need to have the direct experience. It is our direct experience. So when we go to that state of stillness and peace, then we're there, and we're affirming the fact that it's not corrupted, it's not limited, it's not hidden. That's the idea. Then it says, even in waking dream and deep sleep state, the fourth state abides. That's what the Shiva Sutras say. So it goes to our direct experience of limitation, and then it's talking about the different phases of our experience in one day. So this is the way our life works. We're awake, we're asleep, we're dreaming, we have deep sleep, then we're awake again. But even when we wake up, we still have that experience of aham. It exists in all those states, the waking, dream, and deep sleep state. So it's incorruptible, it's not changing. So he's giving us that teaching that this is all Looking for the other sutra, yeah. Where there is no, it's not corrupt, it's not limited. And then it says, aham sukhi cha dukhi cha raktasche dhyadi samvida sukha dhyawasanushute vartante nyatata sputam. It is evident I am happy, I am sad. So we have the waking dream is deep sleep states. And then he says, okay, you feel happy, you feel sad, you feel attached, you feel detached, you feel all the different things that we feel. There's no denying those feelings. The feelings are very important, and we want to use those feelings to empathize and to be part of the world. And even in the midst of feelings, then we have that experience of spanda, because it's what's taking the form of all these feelings. He said, yet such feelings exist in a different place in which happiness and other states are strung together. So all these experiences are strung together. What are they strung together on? Aham. So if we just continually dabbling in these different limited states, and we're very interested, and we start gossiping and doing all the things that the mind wants to do, and forgetting that when we're losing the thread, as it were, we're losing the plot. And so then we bring ourselves back to that. And so then this is a spanda principle in the highest sense, in which there is no sorrow. So it continues in that way. No happiness, no object, no substance, no insentience, no limitation. And finally, the sutra says, labhate tat prayatnena pariksham tattvam adarat yata swatantrata tasya sarvatrayam akritima. So this is kind of the conclusion that I was intending. The spanda principle flowing as the inner causal divinities of Shakti. So here he's going back to that first sutra again. I praise Shankara, from whom all this spanda principle arises, and from which the fivefold processes are happening within us. He said, so he's referring to that, the spanda principle flowing in the inner causal divinities of Shaktis. This is a reference to all the different parts of our being functioning. Inner Shaktis, the mind, the senses, the intellect, etc., all those things. Inner causal divinities or Shaktis. So it's a nice way to refer to what's happening within us. It's again referring to it as spanda or divinity. Due to all of which the sense organs, though inert, acquire the ability of creation. Entrance into should be, the point is, should be examined with great care and effort. The spanda principle, which is arising and existing, subsiding, and doing all this whole dance, should be examined with great effort. So, do you get that?
I got it, but when you say great effort, what about effortless?
Okay, effortless. Well, subtle effort. It has to be subtle, right? Yeah. Well, let's say intention, or even awareness, with awareness. Yeah?
Conscious effort.
Conscious, yes. Yeah.
What's the difference? Conscious effort.
Well, this is a good exploration you're bringing up here, because what kind of effort is it? This is very, very subtle, right? So Prayatna sadhaka, yes, from the Shiva Sutras, that close, intensive effort is.
Grace. How does grace fit into that conscious?
Okay, what do you think? How does it fit for you?
Sort of this subtle, what would you say? Serendipity. that happens.
Okay, yeah.
It happens that is amazing.
Okay, yes. Vismayo Yoga Bhumika, the great, yes. So it's serendipitous, it's arising.
It's not really our effort.
Okay,
It's really that grace that,
all right.
but we have to just keep walking.
So what kind of effort do we make? Grace, yeah.
Keep awareness, keep our awareness.
Awareness, okay. Yeah, awareness. So, how's that? Awareness?
Well, when you talk
Yes.
I'm thinking, doesn't spanda arise
It arises, yeah.
of its own accord naturally?
Something to think about, isn't it? What kind of effort do you make? It's arising. But it's arising as limitations sometimes too, right? So if you want to move it, if you want to move your attention towards aham, what kind of effort is required? It's a question for each of us to answer.
Sometimes it's about making a choice.
It's what? Making a choice, okay.
The direction that you want.
Yes, that's a good one, yeah. Letting go of something, making a choice. Like viveka. Maybe viveka is a good answer with that kind of effort, the effort of discrimination. Just using your discrimination and letting go of something, and holding to something. You can hold, like they always talk about holding to the Guru's feet. So we're holding to aham. And that's grace too, right? Intuition, okay. Yeah, I like this is good. The idea of what's actually happening in those moments. It's like this is subtle points of our own experience that bring grace, and I think it's good. Thanks for that. Thank you all. Sadhgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai.
Vitthala Hare अशून्यावर संगच्छध्वं संवदध्वं संभो मनांसि जानता एवा भागं यथा पूर्वे संजानाना उपासते समानो मन्त्रः समिति समानि समानं मनः सचित्तमेषाम् समानं मन्त्रमभिमन्त्र एव समाने नभो हविषा आजुहोमि समानेव आपूति समाना हृदयानि वः समानमस्तु वो मनो यथा वः सुसहासति हरिः ओम् ॐ द्योः शान्तिरन्तरिक्षं शान्तिः पृथिवी शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिः वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्विश्वे देवाः शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिः सर्वज्ञो शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः सामा शान्तिरेधि जतो यतः समीहसे ततो नो अवयं कुरु शन्नः कुरु प्रजाभ्यो वयन्नः पशुभ्यः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सुशान्तिर्भवतु सर्वहरिष्ट सर्वोपद्रव शान्तिरस्तु
धन्य धन्य प्रदक्षिणा सद्गुरुराया चीजा Jai Sadgurunath Maharaj ki jai. So this concludes our Sunday morning satsang. Thank you all for your presence here, and thank you, Dana, for a wonderful, inspiring talk, and especially with the blossoming of spring. He always brings all of nature into it, so it's a wonderful moment for all of us to remember. And as we move on to next week, so next week we have Nacheshwari's talk, and the topic of her talk is the world real or is it unreal, and does it really matter? So that's the name, that is the topic of the talk. So get ready. So that's next week. And following next week's Sunday satsang, we'll have our Easter picnic. So for anyone who is able to, please make a dish. Everyone's invited to bring a dish. And we'll see what the weather's doing and where we set up, the courtyard, the pavilion, out here, on the tables, indoors, outdoors. We'll see where we end up. And Nirguna has agreed to come and decorate the table with all the little chicks and the eggs and all of that. So she's like, oh, it's that time of year? I said, yeah, those chicks. Remember all the ones you bought from Germany? So she's got all of her little things that she can decorate the table with. So that'll be next Sunday. And then coming up, just to remind everybody, so I know everyone's got it on their calendars, but Gurudev's arrival again on the 14th. He arrives here to the ashram. Everybody's welcome to come. And then on the weekend, we'll have his welcome program on that Sunday morning satsang. On that Sunday afternoon, he'll begin his travel down south. So directly on that 16th, and then return back here to the ashram on the 27th. So there is one Sunday satsang in the middle there where he will not be present. However, on that Sunday satsang, Larry Holmes will be speaking. So satsangs will continue as they always do. And also, just so everybody's wondering, in case anybody's wondering, you would have gotten a flyer in your inbox, which is the Kosha Kids Camp. So just so everybody's aware, on April 12th, from 2:30 to 3:30, there will be a 1-hour introductory program that will be over at the large yurt. So for anyone who wants to understand the concept of it, it's a whole holistic education initiative that Vivek is launching this year here at the ashram. So it starts, the first camp, there's a series of 4 camps. So the first one will be on April 29th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. There are kind of prerequisites and things that are, and commitments that are involved to being involved in it. But if you want to just hear about it, April 12th, 2:30 to 3:30 p.m., everyone's invited, okay? So that's at the yurt on April 12th. And then Gurudev's arrival comes in. We have Gurudev's arrival program. And then on April 29th, we also have, in the evening, a sitar concert here, accompanied by a tabla player. So, and he's also very well renowned. So that's in the evening from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., followed by dinner. So everybody please do join us for that. And then just a reminder to everybody about 2 more programs. So we do have the May 6th intensive, which is in honor of Baba Muktananda's birthday celebration, and that'll be right here, and Gurudev will be present for that. So that'll be May 6th. And then also a reminder to everybody about the Understanding the Siddha Path, Level 1 and Level 2. It's still not too late to register for either or. So I request anyone, if you have any questions or concerns or things that you'd like to discuss about it, feel free to contact any one of the teachers. So you can contact Dana Wilkinson, you can contact Paula Moss, you can contact Mark Ketchell, you can contact Larry Holmes, and they can give you more information. But the first one, Level 1, starts on that Memorial Day weekend, and it concludes on June 11th. And then the second one starts on September 2nd and concludes on September 17th. So just a reminder, and again, an opportunity, as I keep saying, not to be missed. Everyone is still alive and healthy and doing well, and we really want to imbibe as much as we can from all of these amazing teachers while they're all still in the body. So please, everybody, please take advantage of that. And with that, everybody's invited to come up for darshan, followed by lunch prasad. And I think that's all for today. Thank you all. Sadhgurunad Maharaj Ki Jai.